I mean, the amendment that Japan had proposed, or I'm sorry, Mexico had proposed about selling those concessions, did it pass?
No, but only like passed that
But Russia vetoed it. So who do you think is going to get those concessions when they go in there? Who got the concessions in Iraq? Who does Iraq do most of their business with? Take a wild guess. The United States, exactly. And who led the coalition of armed forces into Iraq to change their government? So if the same happens in Iran, who do you think is going to get most of the concessions? The U.S. So did they benefit from the passage of this resolution?
Yeah.
But Burkina Faso benefited quite a bit too, right? Because, I mean, you started off with 4. What did you end up with?
22.
22. So what's 22 minus 4 is 18? That's almost a 400% return. Okay, when we talked about the opening statements and the position statements in our conferencing and debating, how much of that actually influenced your vote? Did any of that influence your vote? Or why didn't those things influence your vote?
What things you say?
The opening statements, the position statements, and even the speeches made during conferencing. Why did those things influence your votes?
Because there are certain things, like on your eyes on my sheet, there were certain things that like we needed.
Okay, so because your government had already told you how to
And if they
vote.
couldn't offer it, then it was.
Okay. What else? Who has a different opinion about why those things didn't affect it? That's good. Thank you. Because did your government have any notes, Jenna, about if we get the X or Y, this may change our votes?
It didn't necessarily say change, but it just said like, well, yeah, actually kind of did. Because
Okay.
it said like we had to stay with our allies, so like if they would have changed, then if I couldn't have gotten what I wanted passed, I would have changed.
Okay. So the fact that your allies may have changed their vote would have affected.
Potentially changed.
Okay, but not necessarily the speeches and the position statements and things like that. So what really affected people's votes?
If they could get what they wanted or not.
Yeah, the money, Odessa said, what Taylor said, that they could get what they wanted. Nick, Cody, help me out here.
I'm sorry.
So when you read in the papers about the United Nations Security Council doing this or this, and they have an interview with the ambassador so-and-so, do you think necessarily what he's saying in the newspaper is really what's going to affect the vote in the Security Council? No. No, because that's all kind of diplomatic, they call it diplomatic speak. You know, it's the things you say to the public in the paper, but what goes on behind closed doors, in a way, is kind of what really determines what goes on there, fair or not. Now, do you think you could have predicted the vote beforehand?
Yeah.
Pretty sure. So, really what they were saying, what they were doing behind closed doors, was pretty transparent anyway, wasn't it? So even though things are going on beforehand, anything to do with Iran in real life, we could almost predict that Russia's not going to be too thrilled about it. Why? Iran borders them. Iran has huge oil reserves, which Russia could use. No. Is the United Nations fair in the Security Council based on what we've just talked about there? Why not? Jenna, I saw you shaking your head. Do you have an opinion?
Well, like some countries have the power to veto things over others, and it's simply because, I don't know, maybe they have more to offer, or like Nick started off with more money and more like to offer other smaller countries, so I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it adds up.
Very good. Why else wouldn't any of these debates be fair? Keegan?
It's all just bribery, like I'll give you $10 if you vote my way.
So it benefits the richer nation or the poorer nation, as we talked about.
Yeah, and then it might not even happen.
Okay, so the fact that not all nations get one vote, who didn't get their say in this, but it affected them most directly? I know you know. Odessa, what did you say? Iran. Who else might it have affected? When we talk about the United Nations organization, Who else might have been affected that should have had a say in it, in the actual deliberations? Was there any NGOs who might have had a, sure, maybe Halliburton would have been there going, hey, we need to get this passed. Halliburton benefited quite a bit from the sale of their military supplies and security services in Iraq. Maybe they'd like to cash in again. Maybe someone like the Red Cross would have been opposed because it would have displaced millions of people, refugees, that they would have had to find a way to care for.